I want to tell you about a Tuesday afternoon a few years ago that I'm still a little bit ashamed of. Something broke in my kitchen. Something small. It was a pottery bowl that I loved. And by the time I found out about it, I completely lost my shit. Not a little frustrated, not a calm conversation about being more careful. I yelled. And here's the part that still haunts me a little. I yelled at the wrong kid. The one who didn't even do it. The one who just happened to be standing there when I found out. I apologized immediately, but I spent the rest of that night sitting with a question that I couldn't shake. What is wrong with me? If that question is familiar, this video is for you, because I have an answer, and it's not what you think. I'm Erica, and this channel is for women who are doing their best and still feel like they're falling short in ways that they can't explain. If you've ever snapped at someone you love over something small and then hated yourself for it, stay with me. Here's what this looks like. Someone leaves a cabinet door open again, and something in you just snaps. A kid asks you the same question for the fourth time when you're clearly in the middle of something, and your response is not patient. Your partner says something completely neutral, the wrong tone at the wrong moment, and you hear it as an attack. And afterwards, you feel two things at the same time. One is the anger, which fades pretty quickly, and then comes the shame, which stays. Because you know that reaction wasn't proportional. You know it wasn't really about the bowl or the cabinet or the question. You know that. You just don't know what it was actually about. And that not knowing is its own kind of exhausting. The small thing is never the real thing. When a woman who is generally patient and moderately self-aware completely loses her composure over something minor, it's not a character flaw revealing itself. It's a pressure valve releasing. Because here's what was happening before the bowl broke, or the cabinet was left open, or the fourth question was asked. She'd been holding the schedule and the mental load and the emotional weight of everyone around her. Holding her own feelings because there was no space for them. Holding it together because somebody had to. And she'd been holding it for so long under so much pressure that when something small happened, she didn't have anything left. That small thing was the last thing. And she yelled at the wrong kid because the wrong kid was the one who was there. The bowl that broke was one that I'd picked up years ago from a craft fair. One of the first things I bought myself after my divorce. Hand-thrown pottery. It wasn't that expensive, but it was mine in a way that felt meaningful. One of those small things that's just yours in a house full of shared everything. Someone was putting the dishes away, something slipped, the bowl cracked, and nobody told me. I found out later. And something about finding out later, the not being told, something about that landed in a place that had nothing to do with the bowl. I yelled. And then I looked at the face of the kid standing there who had nothing to do with it, who was just present when I found out, and I watched something in that face close a little. I apologized immediately and sincerely, but I spent the night asking myself something harder than why did I yell? I asked, what is wrong with me? Because that reaction didn't come from nowhere. It came from somewhere that had been filling up quietly for a long time. Unprocessed frustrations, unexpressed needs, the constant hum of being needed more than I was being fulfilled. The bowl was the trigger, but I was the perfect storm. Your nervous system has a capacity. Think of it like a container. Every stressor that comes in and doesn't get processed adds to what's in the container. Every time you push through something without feeling it, it goes in. Every time you take care of someone else's needs or emotions while setting yours aside, it goes in. Every time you say, "I'm fine," and mean something else, it goes in. And for a while, the container holds. And then something small happens, and you react in a way that feels completely disproportionate to that small thing. Because it isn't a reaction to that small thing. It's a reaction to everything that has been sitting in that container, sometimes for months or even years. The anger is real, but the bowl isn't what made you angry. I want to be really clear about something because I know where your brain goes after a moment like that. This isn't you being bad. You're not a bad parent or a bad partner. This isn't evidence that you're secretly an angry person. This isn't a flaw in your character that needs to be managed better. This is what happens when a person who gives everything constantly doesn't have a place to put her own weight. The snap isn't the problem. The snap is the symptom. The problem is that you've been full for a long time and nobody, including you, has been paying attention to that. I want to know in the comments, what's your version of the bowl? What's that small thing that set you off recently? The thing that you know immediately wasn't really about that thing. You don't have to share specifics, but I want you to know that if this has happened to you, you're not broken. You're overloaded. And there's a difference. If this hit home, like this video and subscribe. Because this is the conversation that we keep having here. Real ones. Not the polished version of falling apart, but the actual version. And if you want support, my free Facebook group, the Emotional Presence Collective, is linked in the description. Come find us.